At Dave Cooper Live, we connect the industry leaders in the architectural, engineering, and construction space with the people, the products, and the processes to help them build it better. We often think of construction innovation as better products, better technologies, and better ways to build. But every innovation depends on the systems around it. For decades, construction has evolved faster than the financial systems designed to support it. As industrialized construction, modular, and offsite manufacturing continue to advance, new approaches to lending, underwriting, risk, and investment are becoming critical to achieving scale. Today, we explore one of the most important systems behind transforming the built environment, finance. Because we can have the best building technologies, the best manufacturers, and the best builders in the world, but the right financial tools and investment models help determine how those solutions reach the market. Joining us are Joshua Erskine, Chairman and CEO of Warp Speed Holdings, James Hecht, CEO of OneTrust Home Loans, and Tom Coronato, Senior Vice President of Offsite Construction Lending. Together, we will explore how financial innovation can accelerate housing, scale building models, and create better outcomes across the built environment. But before we get into any or all of that, we got to give a few words out to our supporting members. Brought to you by Greatech, developers of the complete light gauge steel and wood framing software for Revit StruxSoft. Offsite, modular, or prefabricated, StruxSoft Framer turns Revit into a powerful manufacturing tool, automating every step of the DFMA process from design to final delivery. StruxSoft doesn't just work with Revit, it transforms it. Jumpstart your designs at StruxSoftSolutions.com. Hecht Ltd. has a long history of innovation in cold form steel manufacturing and producing innovative precision roll forming technology for customers throughout the United States and the world. Check out their machine buyer's guide for offsite modular construction or fast build construction with light steel for framing. Go to their website, hechtltd.com. When the delivery can't fail, standard transportation isn't enough. Oversized, time-critical, high-risk, specialized transportation supports advanced projects nationwide. From data centers to the delivery and set of homes and offices. With more than 60 years of experience, we've transported over 60,000 projects, served more than 200 U.S. cities, and logged over 70 million miles. When failure isn't an option, choose the leader in specialized transportation. All right, again, thank you to all of our supporting members and all of the supporting members you see going across the ticker below. We can't do any or all of this without all of your support out there to bring all these innovative conversations to you so you can help build it better. Couple of housekeeping notes, real quick. Just want to remind everybody the exchange. That's right. We have partnered with Informa, and we will have the exchange happening at the Toronto Building Show this December. So make sure you guys check it out. In fact, even built you a nice little widget up there. You can just pull your phone out, take a picture of that. You can check out everything that we're doing. And if you want to be involved, if you want to be a speaker, or you want to showcase your products and your goods and support what we're doing, this is the place to do it. 20,000 people. No joke right there. And just finalized this morning, as a matter of fact. We are also going to be co-hosting and doing work with Mass Timber Plus in Philadelphia this year. And I got the same ticker for you right there, and the same QR code, I should say, right in that top left corner. If you want to learn more about it, pull out your phone, take a shot of that QR code, check it out. We hope to see all of you there. We really look forward to it. All right. So now it's time to get into this conversation. This isn't about finance, or is it about finance? This is about innovative ways to finance, where we're going with this industry, and how the industry has really lacked in some instances of keeping up with the innovation that's happening. And we have three experts that have been doing this for a long time coming on the show right now. Let's bring them on. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having us.
All right. Yep, I can hear you all. Perfect. Hey, listen, Josh, James, Tom Coronato, we appreciate you guys coming on the show and sharing your story with us. Before we get into any of this, we ask the same question each and every show. We want to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Do not leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital, or we're going to have a family member on, or maybe just each of you individually, because I'm sure you got some dirt on each other somewhere. The idea of that is we want to know what you have done in the past and where it brought you to this exact moment in time before we get into what you're doing today. But since there's three of you, only take about 20 to 30 seconds. Josh, I'll start with you.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Josh Erskine, originally from Connecticut, went to UConn, left after college, San Diego, started the first finance company, spent the last 7 years living in Puerto Rico, where we have an outsourced company. The original finance company has expanded into, we have maybe 10 companies now in the finance space and another 15, 20 companies in the non-finance space. An entrepreneur, but still really focused on helping builders solve many issues that they face, and spend my day talking to builders and as it relates to a lot of different segments of the industry where we have interests and companies to help support them.
And just so everybody knows, that's not a green screen behind him. That is the actual background of where he is sitting right now. So if you're jealous, I am, just to let you know. The rest of us seem to be in an office somewhere. James, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what your background is.
Great. Thanks, Dave. It's great to be here. James Hecht, as Josh says, I said I'm originally from Milwaukee. Live in Texas now since the mid-90s. And opposite of Josh and his entrepreneur background and founding the company that Tom and I work for, is I grew up in the business working for some of the largest lenders. Interestingly enough, I got into the business. I always find that's a great question. Is my neighbor next door was in the mortgage business and ran correspondent lending for a large bank. And my dad sold chewing gum, and mortgages seemed cooler at the time to a high school senior heading off to college. And so it could have gone a lot of different ways had I not met him. But that's how I got into the business, and started with MGIC, which is a mortgage insurance company. And then later as an originator for some of the largest originators in the country, Bank of America, Stearns Lending, Caliber, New Res, and then joined OneTrust Home Loans in our family of lending companies, which was founded by Josh and his brother Shane a little over 2 years ago as the CEO. And just fabulous opportunity. Most of my career has been focused on the home building space and trying to, whether that's setting up mortgage companies with home builders, whether that's working on product development. And so finding Josh and then later having Tom join us, the three of us have a great time together trying to find ways to deliver new products and solutions in the home building space.
Hey, listen, if you can't have fun together, it's not worth working together. That's what I always say. Tom Coronato. And by the way, this is probably the first time you'll see him without his cowboy hat. Tom, go ahead, give us the quick lowdown.
Well, originally from New Jersey, spent most of my career out of college and prior in the restaurant business until a high school buddy and friend of my older brother said he needed a junior loan officer. I didn't know what that even meant. I actually suggested someone else, and then a couple weeks later, I was in the business. Just by accident. My career was primarily on the East Coast. Actually, on a sidebar, my first builder I kind of really started dealing with introduced me to Offsite, which led to 28 years lending in Offsite. Eventually moved to Wyoming, where, as a lot of people who know me, I've been the last 20 plus years, not only assisting my family in the family businesses we have out there, but just working my mortgage career until I met Josh, who convinced me very easily, actually, that his innovative mind is the way to go, because he was the first person I ever met that I sat down with, and I did not have to explain what I needed. In fact, he casually just said, "What do you need?" And I said, "I need this." He said, "All right." And that was the end of the conversation. And I was in shock, and it's led us to today. So
I love it. Yeah. So we're gonna get in the forensic psychology of Josh and James here, so we can understand all this different ways of thinking and innovation. Gentlemen, this is going to be kind of an open conversation. Some of you will have answers for some things versus others, and if there's any trail you want to go down, no pun intended, Josh, since it looks like you probably got a lot of trails behind you back there, feel free to go down that trail. So. All right, let's kick this conversation off. So when most people think about construction, they naturally think about labor, materials, technology, manufacturing, but none of those innovations move very far without capital behind them. So before we talk about solutions, let's first understand why financing has become such a challenge. Josh, jokingly, speaking here, did you wake up one day and ask yourself, why has construction finance not evolved at the same pace as construction innovation? Or did you run into Tom and go, I never knew that existed? How did this happen?
So we started just with a traditional retail lender with the idea that we were going to, our background was doing workouts for large projects. So we built a lot of custom or portfolio style products, but with other people's capital. And when we started OneTrust Home Loans, myself and my brother, we had the idea that we weren't going to lend other people's capital anymore, even if it meant staying smaller. So, we first built out the network, and then we received our first $5 million to lend into the market in 2016, meaning $5 million that we would hold on balance sheet. We were doing substantially more lending then, but pretty much all lenders, which I think maybe people don't understand, lend only to the products that you can keep on your balance sheet for a day or two, a week, and then you sell off. We wanted to have the flexibility of utilizing a balance sheet to take risks and hold loans that are quality loans. And the first $5 million we got for both portfolio construction and construction were essentially on the same day. And we said, where should we best look at this? And we decided that there was the least amount of competition in the modular space. So we started by looking at some of the challenges there and realizing that, there's abundance of capital in the traditional space, but there's some challenges that exist in just the way that the process works relative to lenders of mitigating risk. And we felt that we could, with our team, quickly solve some of those gaps and enter into a space and help expand the capital availability of the space.
Yeah. So the challenges are real when it comes to the traditional financing side of modular, offsite construction, whatever the case is. And it's never been an easy path to follow. There's never been enough lenders out there that truly understood the value of what advanced manufacturing offers. What have you guys seen as that friction where you started filling the gaps in between? And Tom or whoever wants to go with that, please do.
I'll start with it just because kind of a follow up to what we were saying. So, what a lot of people don't realize is it's less about the end product, right? Like, I think people understand. My uncle had a modular home in Connecticut when we grew up. It was a beautiful home. I had no clue it was a modular home until I had left in the financing space. It was a really nice house. didn't know much about it. But the reality is that it just goes against the grain of traditional underwriting. And when you're building something that's not on site, that doesn't become real property, that's something that someone has to get their hands around. And that's actually not really traditional underwriting risk. It's actually more insurance risk. And then you have performance risk, is what happens if something happens to a factory. And so there's a variety of different risks that you have to mitigate that are not your traditional lending risks, which is purely, I have a borrower and I have a project and I can do traditional inspections along the way and I can mitigate my risks. You actually have, what if you don't typically do inspections in the factories? What happens if something happens to the factory? You don't have something that's fee simple on the site. You then have insurance risks. What happens if something happens in transit? And you have to cover a lot of risks and build processes that are just not the traditional underwriting process, which is why you don't have that many people in the space.
Yeah. And I would add to that is you have that complexity, and then you think of the complexity of assuming all of that goes as planned, and you manage and mitigate those risks. You still then have to coordinate the construction of the home in the factory, and then locally working with the contractors that have been hired to finish the on-site work, and that connection between the company, the factory company, the contractor, obviously the end consumer, and working through those aspects of the lending process as well. So it is definitely, you mentioned, I think earlier, is just the complexity has been why a number of lenders, banks have stayed away from it. And, what you'll hear through this conversation, both Josh and Tom sort of run towards complexity because they understand it and look to try to make it easier for that consumer.
Tom, how are you making it easier for the consumer out there, the builder, the developers? How are you reducing the friction of what it traditionally was like being in this industry and trying to get the financing to build a house or a project?
Oh, I mean, it comes at me like a fire hose every day. But I think the first piece of the puzzle is, and you as a builder recall curbside delivery and payment. It's all about payment. And if you could remove that friction out of it early on, and not only the conversation, but just people have to know that most banks are just not lending to the modular manufactured space, the offsite, anything that involves a component properly. And, again, that was my first question to Josh sitting at dinner with him one night, just like, hey, I need my money. I don't ever want to have a conversation with any kind of, developer, builder, anything about money and when they need it. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, like in manufactured, you're like a 1080-10 or a 1090 payment. I go, I need pre-curbside payment, and it's going to vary from coast to coast. And everybody's a snowflake. And he went, okay, that's fine. We'll do it. And I go, no, I need it. He goes, we do it now. And I looked at him like in shock, because I was like, well, what do you mean you do it now? Because that is the question I get asked every single time. Like, it's not about, I get weird questions like, can you do what we are? And people try to explain to me, what they're building. I'm like, you don't need to explain to me what you're building. I know what you are. I just need to know how you want to get paid. And as soon as that is established, then we're moving forward. So,
yeah. Oh, it makes a lot of sense. James, I actually want to go back to, this evaluating risk, certainty, long-term value, right? Is the method of construction or how the projects get delivered a factor when calculating risk? And what you have said, yes, on the traditional side, right? But you guys aren't taking a traditional approach, is what I'm hearing.
No, we do not take the traditional approach, and I think Josh gave some detail on that and as to the why behind it. And the reality of it is, all lending is there is, if you try to find some way of lending where there is no risk, it's not out there, right? And once you understand the business, and I think that's really what we do as a company, is the more you dig in, you understand exactly how things are done, where that risk lies, you can then build the systems and the processes around that to mitigate that risk. Now, that doesn't mean, things do happen, right? Bad things do happen, but the more you understand the entire process and, where those items can come up, then you can plan for it. And that allows you then to get in and stay in the business.
Yeah. And Tom, how much easier is this making your world?
I used to take a knife to a gunfight in the construction world.
Okay.
Today, I take a howitzer to a knife fight. So it's that much easier.
So do you guys see, traditional institutions, changing their approach, like how will they fit in, we know how they fit in today's lending model. Do you actually see them fitting into this new way of building and advanced manufacturing in the future? And if so, and if not, what financial systems need to exist to actually get projects built?
I think I'll jump in, and then the others. I think our biggest challenge, more Tom's biggest challenge, is the others who try to get in without the understanding. And yeah, I know Tom gets a lot of calls to fix things that other lenders stumbled into. And originators, as they go out and see opportunity, they will say yes and yes, and without understanding what they're saying yes to, and then you put a lot of people in challenging way. So I do think that is probably one of the biggest obstacles as far as other lenders truly coming in understanding. Sure, we're definitely not alone there. I think what's been really exciting for us is to understand the business, be able to put in those systems, and then bring some of the tools that has been involved in traditional lending and new construction, right? Forward commitments as an example, and be able to find a way to make that work in this space. And that's something even Tom, who's done this and obviously has a great relationship, done it a long time. It's been something new for him to bring to the table for his partners, as we've been able to again look at how the business done, understand it, set the systems up, and then be innovative. That's just one example.
I think also to add to that, I think we'd be crazy to sit here and say, especially like anytime you get choppy markets, Dave, where there's not a lot of production, right? Like people are going to expand to get new production. That's just what lenders do. But what's also happened that's beneficial to the space is you had, for example, an primarily offsite style home being a barn dominium, and some of that stuff or you have printed homes or some of these other kind of unique things that are out there. The agencies, meaning Fannie and Freddie, have stepped up as well and made those can be considered a standard product, right? Modular should be a standard product. Manufactured has its own definitions. There's some mandates at the agencies right now that James is very well connected to the leadership within the agencies, and we have teams that work with them on kind of evolving products. So I think that you're going to see consistent increased capital in the space. But I think what we've done differently is, in the holding company, we have a variety of businesses beyond lending. And I think that the approach that we've taken within the holding company is that there's more than just a financing challenge. For example, we understand in certain states there's a challenge with getting bonding, to be able to get state-sponsored projects. So we have started a reinsurance company that one of the products we've just recently added is bonding, performance bond. Now, for us, that's just the same risk of providing construction capital as putting up performance bonds. So, we've taken it a step further where I think that although there'll be more capital that comes in, I think that our family of companies, which is 10 lenders or so and growing pretty rapidly. We do a lot of partnerships with builders. It's less about having the financing products available and more about being able to get in there and solve the individual problems that exist on a particular deal and be able to explain, I think, to the builder on how to solve some of those items. Like, for example, a factory that wants a 40% down payment. Someone that's smart capital is not going to advance 40% upfront to a factory because that's profit, it's all risk, but projection or 10% or 15% or something reasonable with progress payments, getting in and explaining the fact that there is certain red flags. And if the factory is just hell-bent on receiving way more money than they need and being ahead of the lender, then there's other people out there. And if you're lending your own capital, I think you move towards the areas that are lower risk. And then with that, there's a lot of other issues that exist around the fragmentation. We've been starting to make investments in the different segments of the space, whether it's right now we're looking at some construction supplies, some very specific construction supply business that will support, maybe some of the companies that we have capital behind because we need that piece that's very specific to a component. So I think that that's the thing that we've done differently. It's not necessarily all about financing. We're oftentimes solving solutions that's related to capital, process, how you look at things differently. We already have the products to give the end user the loan. We already can solve the easy things of making sure a payment's there as long as everybody's being reasonable on how much they need at a certain time. But I think there's a component of this that you have to solve the outside financing factors. And that's the part that I think we've consistently stay ahead of others, and having the holding company that makes investments into other types of businesses has allowed us to do that.
Yeah. I mean, that to me, I mean, you're kind of controlling the entire ecosystem and taking the problems off the builder, developer, investor, or whatever the case is what I'm hearing. So, and just to clarify people out there, I mean, it sounds to me like, you know, you have the capital to finance projects. Sounds like you have the risk mitigation products to help you mitigate the risk for yourself, for the manufacturer and the builder, whatever that case is, right? To protect who's lending the money. And then, you know, and Tom, maybe this is where it kind of goes to you. Then you have the different payment structure, you know. So when we're looking at this, Tom, you know, what are you seeing that is different in your world from traditionally how you used to do it? I mean, curbside, payments, all these different things that made it so difficult. And like Josh said, you're right, 40% down and 25% even if you're a big builder and you can negotiate that with these factors.
Yeah. Yeah. You have the obvious of the pre-curbside delivery payment is, to a single family or a developer, this is important to the manufacturer. But then you could take it one step further to where, it's hard to say common sense lending, but there's very much common sense lending. The openness to develop a product if there's a need and it could be profitable is coming in from the directive, from Josh and his team and James. But then you have really the ability to really kind of like, I ask my builders questions I've never asked in the past about, what's their margin? Where are they falling? Where are they troubling in sales? And then kind of going into like a conversation with forward commitments, kind of to solve attainability issues and affordability questions with clients, because you're in a market, we know that they shop monthly payment. Well, the only way to control monthly payment is control the rate. And the way we control the rate is the builder, basically buys monies from us in advance and then we lend it. And then, add that to the tool belt with, if they're doing a large amount, we have the ability to even get more control, remove the friction. We have an insurance company, we can form joint ventures. I mean, the list is endless of the tools that we bring to the table with an appetite to lend smartly, not risky, but with, it's kind of, the formula is very easy. If you remove as much risk as possible, the lending will take place, but you need to have all the tools.
Yeah. James, do you see, when we think about the institutional lenders that are out there, right, that have been around forever and either dabble in this space or don't, is it a matter of you just can't steer, a cruise ship, 360 degrees overnight type thing, or is it policy that holds them up and regulation, and that's what makes it easier for you guys to be so nimble behind the scenes and with your capital? What is stopping the institutional people from actually thinking this way?
Yes, and yes. In all serious, the first one of those yeses is you can tell through this piece here, and Josh, Tom, and I each bring different skill sets to it. The understanding of how to make it happen, all the things that we're talking about. I mean, it requires experience. It requires, the energy and time to put in and learn it. And that's problem number one with a lot of lenders is people look at it and say, okay, well, how is that any different than, financing a spec home, which is laughable, but the reality that happens a lot. So people and understanding and talent is the first limiting factor. The second is once people do understand some of the things like Josh talked about, advancing and Tom actually brought it up as well, advancing funds early and the risk of the factory. Once some of those risks are known, particularly your larger banks, they realize they don't have the talent and the understanding, and putting their capital at risk for that purpose is definitely a limiting factor. And then, the third limiting factor to that whole piece is just, again, you said nimble. The reality of it is, a company our size, we are, we're not the big bank, we're not the tiny company either. We're somewhere in the middle, but we have the expertise, we have the access to capital, and we're able to control all of those elements that are important. And having those three things occur is not an accident, and it's not easy for others to replicate. The barriers to entry of truly winning and succeeding in this space are definitely high.
I don't think a lot of, even the traditional lenders, don't understand the repeatable factory process, and it would be great to get your take on this. Does manufacturing and building houses, modular, what have you, does it reduce risk in the way that you're looking at your metrics and how you lend money?
My feeling on it, I mean, when you're looking at buying a car, we're already predispositioned to go buy a car from a factory. We know that's going to be quality. We know that that's going to be managed. We know that's going to have warranties, et cetera. This is actually from a client of mine. He had said, you would never today expect to go buy a house that was built in your car. Like, actually, building a house in a factory should be just as simple, is really what he was saying to me. And he goes, you would never expect to go buy a car that was built in your driveway. It just doesn't make sense. So to lean into where we are heading, from it as an industry, just based on skill, based on, weather, based on materials, and keeping it all in one place. We're already a country of manufacturing, and we're late to the game when you look at overseas and how they handle it. Just for me, I stepped in the industry by accident when I met a modular builder, and it just made sense immediately. And I stayed the course for 28 years. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, listen, you guys are lending all over the place. You're working with some of the biggest, developers, from my understanding, that are out there as well in lending. What metrics are you guys looking at that determines, what you're willing to build or lend or, put out there? Josh, I don't know if you want to answer that, but is there a metric, like a litmus test, so to speak, of maybe, or yeah, that's a good one?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, maybe to start with just giving a little bit of context to your last question, because I think it has a lot to do with this. The reality is both can be risky. Construction lending is also, relative to end unit, completed home takeout financing, the amount of construction financing available for any property, for that matter, any builder, any buyer that wants to go in is significantly limited relative to a completed home, right? So it's already limited. And then beyond that, it's further limited if it happens to be modular manufacturer, an offsite product, right? So that's just a function of the complexity, and you're going to get less people. They're all risky. Is it more risky or less risky to do factory versus not? I would say it's just a different risk. What I can tell you is that typically the important thing that we've done to stay safe in becoming, if you take our volume across all of the companies, because we operate underneath the multitude of different companies, we're probably one of, if not the largest non-bank construction lender in the United States. And we do substantial volume. We're up there. We don't really care. We don't advertise it, but we're a major player in that space. We deploy a lot of capital into the construction space, especially with end users. Where we have kept it safe as partnerships is understanding, what the partner, the builder, the borrower need, and understanding how you make projects successful, as opposed to just shotgunning and going out there and taking in any application in the door. That will get you in trouble 100% of the time. Doesn't matter if you're in the offsite, modular manufacturer or in the traditional stick-built space. You'll get in trouble doing that, because the reality is you've got to go deeper with relationships. So we try to build relationships, and it started in some of the biggest custom home builders in the United States as it relates to construction. And then we started to realize that we could start to support the builders that are building 1 to 2 units a month. And we could start to actually give them a lot of the same resources that even the public builders have with forward commitments and at an earlier stage. So what we really did is through our builder or loan officer network, and Tom runs one of our bigger divisions, is through people that get it. We just started to train them on the tools that we typically had at only the leadership level to step in and help support them. And we still get on a lot of calls all day long with builders. But I think it's all about the partnership. Like anything, it's a relationship. And if they understand that you don't want to lose money and you want them to win, but that also comes with, let's be honest about the situation. Let's be honest about your financials. Let's be honest about the budget. Let's make sure that we're mitigating risk. And then you do repeatable processes that makes the second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th, 100th, 200th transaction easier, faster, more efficient. That's where we've been successful, is building partnerships. We really could care less about competing with another lender. We're competitive because we wouldn't have built it from zero to the size if we weren't. But it's really important for us to build repeatable business that creates a great experience, removes friction for both the end user buying the home as well as the builder, and operating as a liaison between that process that makes that transaction happen. And I think that's what mitigates the risk more so than the lending side, is who are the parties and what are we trying to accomplish? And if you can get everybody on the same page and remove the issues with insurance and builder's risk, we control all that because we have positions in companies that offer those services, and you can get them to a viable, good product that people are happy with. And in today's day and age, a low rate, because the builder is willing to buy the rate down to 499 or 599 or whatever the number is. You can create a repeatable process that isn't risky, but that does come with making sure you're working with people that want to be in partnerships.
Yeah. You almost sound like an Offsite commercial there, right? Because that's exactly what manufacturing is in general, and innovation and systems. It's all about the system. And if you have the right systems in place, you can lower costs, you can reduce risks, you can speed to market, right? Heads to beds, whatever the case is. And it really plays part in every industry. And it seems like construction is the last industry to catch up with this whole concept.
I think on paper, it can be
Yeah.
less risky because time is problem. And one thing Offsite does give you is a faster build. And I think, as you being a previous builder, you can't control markets and cycles, and it is cheaper to control time. So maybe your absolute cost of building the home is not any better. And maybe because you have two builders, a factory that's building a great home and an Offsite guy building the same home, let's just say that's equal. What you can do inside is control time, and you can do it faster. And if you can be the same quality and the same cost and you can do it faster, at the end of the day, that's less risky. But it's not quite there. The industry is not entirely there yet, but there's many that are. And I think that's something that is a mitigating factor of risk and very beneficial to homeowners to be able to get into homes much faster.
Yeah. Are you guys seeing the insurance companies understanding this yet? Because less risk, less trucks on site, less people climbing ladders, and less SALs happen, right? Where it's in a controlled environment. Do you see the insurance companies looking at this risk differently because of all those reasons above?
Well, builder's risk has always been a challenge, right? And that's one of the things we realized when we're a partner in I'll just disclose it here. It's not, people could do some searching and figure out Schumacher Homes, which is one of the bigger custom home builders. We're the partner of Paul Schumacher and Schumacher Mortgage, and have been for years. It runs itself. It's got great leadership, and really been a great attribute to that business. As soon as someone says, I want to go build a home, and then they call their local insurance person, and the local insurance person doesn't know anything about builder's risk, and they turn around and they say, well, why would you want to build your own home? That's risky. You've created a friction point that really has nothing to do with it. It's just you have an insurance agent that doesn't know the first thing about a builder's risk policy. So I would say that was such a complexity, Dave, that we just went out and acquired an insurance platform many years back. And we not only offer and search for the best builder's risk policies in the country. It's kind of the opposite of a lending platform, where we lend all of our own capital and hold it on balance sheet of our companies. That business, we do utilize all the insurers that offer it, but we've now this year taken that a step further. And in the last few months, we started to actually balance sheet, for lack of a better term. We started to take that risk in-house relative to many builders that we know create a predictable outcome for us if we ended up having to rebuild a house. So it's a massive issue, for the sole purpose that if someone calls their agent and they don't know how to write the policy and they can't get the right conversation going between a loan officer that doesn't fully understand it, the underwriter, the borrower, the builder. I mean, any friction points, you lose sales, and it's unnecessary to lose sales for that. So, our position has always been that we just control the process. So we created the companies. And like I said, now we've taken it a step further. We're actually holding the risk starting right now. It took a while to build, but we now actually hold the risk on certain builders risk policies because we do think that it'll further open up the availability. And those policies have gotten much cheaper than they used to be. It's no longer $10,000 for a builder's risk policy to build a $500,000 home. We're seeing those policies get down into the $2,000 to $3,000 level. So it's getting more competitive, more people understanding it, but it is a friction point that you have to control so that somebody does believe that, hey, that home that you see on paper and you see the renderings of, in 6 to 9 months, that will be your home. But you've got to remove some of those friction points to give them the opportunity to be able to feel comfortable moving forward and doing that.
Yeah, I would imagine being on the builder side, previously in a developer side, and I'll use it this way, but having a tool like yours in my back pocket actually helps me deliver and build more homes faster.
Our model has always been to a builder. If you can't say that we help you sell more homes, and that's not gimmicky, that's not like, all this BS that gets thrown out there. If our services, and also the same thing goes, we don't want to be looked at as being a benefit to the builder and being in their core. At the same time, helping homeowners get into homes with positive reviews and having a great process. If we can't be a benefit to both and help you sell more homes, you should not work with us. Our model's been different. We're not a lender. We're a set of companies that are designed to be able to help facilitate a process, make both sides happy. And if it doesn't help you sell more homes, then just get rid of us. I mean, there's no need to. You have other options. And if we can't do that, then you should work with someone else.
So if I heard you right with Schumacher, since you said it, I want to just dive into that. So Schumacher, and I know them very well, not personally, just, from being in the industry all these years, and a lot of the big builders offer their own financing and lending arm. And that's kind of where you guys come in behind the scene, almost like a white label. Am I understanding that correct?
That's right. Yep. And as Josh said, we started what we call our joint venture platform, which is a fancy name for building mortgage companies with home builders. And so Schumacher being one of those, along with numerous others, where we go in, partner, both put up capital and create a mortgage company with a unique brand. And I think what's most important in that is it takes, we handle all of the systems, the compliance, all the core lending items, but then working with that partner to really customize an experience that leads for sure to more sales. To Josh's earlier point, more sales because we can come up with financing, unique financing tools and products to help them. We help them on the sales side when they're running into marketing and how to drive traffic. But then we also make sure that the customer flow and communication process is dialed into their model, which drives referrals. And you put all that together, and having that company focused on supporting the home builder manages the backlog, manages the customer experience, and if everything is done right, you should also earn a return on your capital too.
Listen, that's what it comes down to, right? And how do you deliver the best product for the builder developer, the best product for the consumer? Because it's a fine line, like you said, the walk. And but if the consumer doesn't buy in, the builder doesn't build. So overall, and then you take the insurance risk and the builder's risk on, or however you're doing the policies. It is so much easier dealing with one company than it is dealing with all these different companies and then trying to get them to sync up in the field to the consumer, everything, right? I mean, this is a win-win. It's kind of like building a factory built home. Like, you're not just getting a house, you're getting a team of 400 people that are working that production line. And when you need something, you got a team of people to help you work through whatever that is, because I'm sure it's not all roses all the time.
That it is. It's still the lending.
It's a partnership. So when a builder runs into something that they're having challenges with, they say, hey, we're struggling on sales and marketing. We had a builder recently tell us that, not in the modular, is in the stick built space, and we happen to have made an investment into a real estate platform, and all the consulting we had been doing over the years with builders on forward commitments and integrating this process. I mean, we stood up a sales and marketing company. They were averaging 1 sale per month in the first 45 days. We had 9 sales. And that company now is out there taking on additional work, but we only take on a couple things at a time. So it's just like a big thing is just integrating things and solving things for builders that they may not know how to do. AI is another big one right now. A lot of builders know they have to be in the AI space. They're not typically tech forward. The construction industry hasn't been. We have several technology companies and some consulting companies that have been doing a ton in that space. And because we understand the builder side so much, they can connect the dots on those items. Is how do I integrate technology? How should I be using this? How should I build my presence online? You know, it's unbelievable. A lot of builders still don't have a social media presence. And I can tell you the bigger builders, they really focus on that. I mean, I think we do the same thing. I mean, using Schumacher Mortgage, for example, I'm sure if you went on there's probably a 4.8 to 5.0 reviews, because we really focus on the experience. But You've got to, as a builder, create validation if you're trying to differentiate yourself in a market where it's not simply you either build a home if you're spec and someone will buy it. You actually have to be able to sell it now, and you got to be able to, you know, solve problems for the consumer, because it's not an easy market to move product with. Yeah. So I think, you know, just being able to be collaborative on stuff has been a huge benefit to not only our businesses. I mean, I'm so thankful for our builder partners. They've allowed us to continue to grow and acquire other companies and solve other problems. If it wasn't for them, we would have nowhere near the capital that we have to be able to do what we do. So we're as thankful for them. And we look at it, a builder that's doing 1 home a month or 2 home a month, as an annuity for us, because we've been so great at retaining them. But at the same time, we think that the partnership has allowed our builder partners to solve some really complex issues and to get over the hump on things really quickly that may have led to, you know, excess inventory on the ground, making a bad decision, going into a bad deal with a factory that's on the tail end of failure, you know, and some of the things that you just have to be careful with.
Yeah, for sure. And the fact that builders haven't figured out that they're a destination, right? People only want you when they want you, and they're going to search online first. It still boggles my mind. And then when they're done with you, they're done with you. They want you, you know, people want you out of their lives. So I love it. Tom, what do you make of all of this? I mean, you're boots on the ground. You are the guy that has to be out there doing the grind day to day, dealing with the homeowners, dealing with the manufacturers, dealing with the builders, developers, and whatever else you have to deal with. Driving 2 hours to Home Depot one direction, driving to Lowe's the other direction 2 hours because you live in the middle of nowhere. No, I'm just teasing you. You know, tell us, what are you seeing boots on the ground with the industry in general, and where this industry is going, and then we're gonna start wrapping this up a little bit. Go ahead.
I mean, I think the industry, like talking to my partners and friends in the industry, I think the innovation that I've stumbled in on with Josh and James and Shane, his brother, the ability to kind of forward think into this, it's exciting to be out in the field. And again, talk about being able to help. Like, I know I've always helped people sell homes, and the partnership has always been good. But then now you're bringing in, dare I say, younger, modern technology. Like a year and a half ago, I didn't use AI. I used it 1 time, 2 times. Today, I'm using it every 10 minutes. This company's invested a lot of time and money into it. Being able to talk to those conversations with builders about, hey, let me help you market and make this more successful. Because the true partnership is, you're not always partnered in. Like, a lot of people think it's large builders all the time. For my world, it's not. My builders might be onesie twosies. They might be 10s, 20s. They could be 50, a year. They could be more. But the thing is the way that it's designed is you can help the guy that does 1 do 2. The guy that does 5, he can do 10. The guy that's doing 20 can do 50. Just getting involved with what I feel has been a blessing to me in this industry, to be able to say, hey, other lenders need to be doing what we do. They're not. So let's just take more of the pie. But the pie is so vast. It's too much for one person. But certainly being able to jump in there, I think it's like, this is the time. It's, Offsite is the solution, no matter how you look at it. So.
Yeah, James, Josh, I'm going to tell you, I'm kind of upset with you that you started this idea so late. I mean, I could have built so many more homes should I've been able to move, clients and projects through the system so much faster. So I'm going to hold that over your heads for the next 20 years. So don't worry about it. But I love it. I'm going to ask each of you here first. Is there anything that we didn't discuss that you really want people to know about? What your team is doing out there, and each of you can chime in on this. I don't know if we touched base on everything, but did we miss anything, I guess, is the question.
I'll jump and start. I think and we appreciate you giving us the chance not only to give some information on the industry and how we think we can solve problems, but certainly promoting what we do on the daily on the company. But I think the biggest takeaway is any type of lending in the construction area, as Josh's point, has challenges and opportunities. We look to find the opportunities, and what I would say I think we do better than most is to get in there and have a humble attitude, learn, understand what the team needs and the partner needs, and come up with a solution that works. And it's not, well, aspects are repeatable. The key element is really sitting down, listening, and finding that solution to help that builder partner sell more homes. And I think we do it better than any in that area.
Yeah, I 100% agree on that. Josh, you got any takes on that?
No, I think it's just, we're a solution-oriented company. We make money by deploying capital. So we have to deploy capital to make money, right? Like that is where we make the bulk of our money. Obviously, there's different businesses that make money in offering insurance policies, but at the holding company and in our lending businesses, we make money by deploying capital. So we're always just looking for the next opportunity. We only deploy capital in the startups or early stage companies or companies that are pivoting from small to medium. We do no late stage investing. So everything we do is just to solve problems and to help people solve problems and to become, viable businesses. So I think that, just one final thought would be that we're always looking for opportunities where there's a challenge that we can solve quickly and help people be successful in anything related to the building industry, whether it's supply companies, whether it's products, whether it's builders, smaller builders. We're always looking to deploy some capital into some of those areas and use our many companies in finance and accounting and tax and compliance and legal. We have, technology, consulting. We have companies in all those different spaces, holdings. We really like to continue to evolve in the builder space. So happy to talk to anybody and see how we can help. But we'd ideally like to be part of this business becoming much larger in the offsite modular manufacturing space. We believe it's got a lot of legs.
Well, you guys are on the front lines. Like before anything's built, you already know what's in the pipeline of being built. So let's wrap up with, your thoughts, all three of you. And Justin, so I'll let you finish up where you're going. Where do you see the industry 5 years, 10 years from now? Doesn't just have to be the offsite industry. Are we going to continue seeing significant growth?
I think that, obviously we have to get through this choppy window that we all thought we'd be through a year ago. And, every year it's one more year, right? And now we've got the rate environment that we're in. But I mean, on the backside of this, I think we get probably a more normalized rate environment in the fives that becomes very healthy for the industry. So first, we need to get rid of some of the tailwinds that exist today and the choppiness in the market. And I think that gives us the framework for things to evolve and more investment to come into the space and more buyers to come into the space and, a bigger market. I think that everybody has to be understanding of what is required to get capital. And I think the more we can educate people on how to do the right partnerships and not go out with these crazy ideas of building, 400 unit subdivisions when you've got 150,000 in the bank, you're just not at that level yet. But, there's partnerships that can be created to get people to get to the experience, to get the capital. And I think the more those conversations happen and the more you remove things like, factories wanting 70% upfront and not understanding why a bank wouldn't give them the money, and essentially finance their whole things, and people taking money from those jobs in factories and financing, too much overhead and having factories fail. I think some of these things become more normal and everybody understands the risk mitigation I see Offsite and components of the process almost for the entire industry, some component moving more in this direction than more so in stick built. I don't necessarily think the entire movement will go that direction, but I think that, foundation systems that are offsite, more panelized systems with even on-site builds. I mean, I think you're going to naturally see it because it's more scalable. But it is going to come in with time and better understanding of between capital and the businesses. And once they get more in unison, I think more money comes into the space.
Yeah, I agree with that. James, where do you see everything headed in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I would look at it more, all of what Josh said, we agree, and that represents our view. I think the biggest area of opportunity, I might add, is probably more hopeful of what I see is really making some meaningful moves in the affordability space. I do think, what we're talking about here with homes in the factory and the modular space can play a big part in that, as can manufactured and standard build on site, but there has to be continued efforts with municipalities and zoning and things of that nature, along with true policy work that can come out of the government. And to Josh's point, favorable rates, putting that together, that's really, I think, where the efforts to help on the affordability front can make a difference.
Yeah. Tom, I'll leave with you on this one. Where do you, you're the frontline guy, boots on the ground. Where do you see this industry headed over the next 5-10 years?
I mean, it's been moving for the last 20 or 30, and it's been a heck of a ride. I think that, I've always surrounded myself with really smart people. It makes me look smart, even though I know that I'm not. But in this industry, our friends, our partners, the people coming in are, really smart folks out there. And I think that it's gonna move. It's gonna go. It has to. It makes more sense, really, if you look at it. It'll solve a lot of the problems. And I'm glad as a young man, I didn't think I would position myself like where I sit today, but I think I'm in a good position. I think the industry is in a good position, and it's not going to be just an alternative. I think it'll become more mainstream. So,
yeah. Gentlemen, I appreciate you joining today. I hope it was informative and fun for you and not stressful. I mean, nothing can make you stressful, Josh. That dang background's got me every time here. So, gentlemen, if you just hang tight, I'll come back to you right after the show so we can recap. For the rest of you out there, listen, if you're looking to create more housing and you have communities or single family or whatever it is you're building out there, and you need partners willing to explore new solutions, those conversations begin with innovators, developers, builders, and the financial partners working together to rethink how projects are evaluated, supported, and delivered. At Dave Cooper Live, we bring these voices together to explore the systems shaping the built environment and uncover ideas, partnerships, opportunities that help communities achieve better outcomes. This was a conversation of just that. If you need a partner to drive your projects forward, this was an episode that I think was groundbreaking, because I have not had anybody that had everything under one roof, from finance and risk mitigation all the way through, and work with the builders all the way to the consumers. And I think that is spectacular. And some final notes, we do hope you will join us at our upcoming events. Like I said, we have the building show in Toronto in December. We have Mass Timber Plus coming up. We'd love for you to be a part of that. You want to support us, you want to speak there, you want to be part of the conversation, we'd love to have you with us. So one last time, gentlemen, I want to appreciate all of you for joining us. And please, you can help us by sharing this. Put it out to the communities, put it out to the builders and developers. There's a lot of people that will benefit from this conversation, and you can help spread that news. I'm Dave Cooper. Thanks for watching. What an amazing show. Thank you to all of our sponsors for helping us to continue to bring all of these innovative conversations to all of you out there. Please visit them, see what they have to offer you. And as always, subscribe to the YouTube channel and ring that bell. It would mean the world to us. I'm Dave Cooper. Thanks for watching.